This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
There's a shot.
Shot that might be. It could be.
Right field. Grand slam. No. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. And all you guys at BCSN, we really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong.
Go get 'em!
It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm.
Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I.
pleasant good morning to everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Today's guest menu looks like this. Charles Edmonds will join us very shortly of the Alcorn State Radio Network. Then we'll be joined by Coach Vann Pettaway. He's our basketball analyst for the show. And then last but not least, Willa Brown, who will join us. Here's what's trending on the Coles Brown Show. Courtney Simmons is named the Grambling State's women's basketball coach. She'll be joining Tiger Nation. And congratulations to Coach Simmons, a Baton Rouge native. And believe it or not, was a finalist for the women's basketball job at Southern University that ultimately went to Coach Carlos Funches. Congratulations in store, Texas Southern, the first HBCU to win the national championship at the National Cheerleading Association Collegiate Cheer. Historic in itself. Congratulations to Texas Southern University. And then last but not least for you, SWAC Football Media Day, July 25th. That's coming up. It'll be here before you know it. All 12 teams will be represented at SWAC Football Media Day, and also they will have 2 players from each institution. So with that being said, that's what's trending on the Coles Brown Show. There we go, Charles Edmond. Here on the Coles Brown Show. Charles, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing on this dreary Saturday morning?
Well, I'm doing well, and you're absolutely right. A lot of rain in the geographical area where you're at. Also here in Baton Rouge, it is not raining right now, but you kind of overcast, and you're thinking a little bit of rain may get here. And then Sunday, you start all over again. Charles, last Saturday, I had the pleasure of being at A.W. Mumford Stadium, the spring game. And let me just say this, spring games are just, to me, you're not going to get a whole lot. It's kind of vanilla in a way. It was very hot, 90 degrees in Baton Rouge. And so I got a chance for the first time. Now, I'll preface this by saying the first time for me seeing the football team. Basically, everyone wants to know about quarterback situation. Coach Dooley came out and said if he had to go with a game, say this upcoming week, Harold Blood would be the starter. Got a chance to see all 3 quarterbacks. Harold Blood, quick release. He has command of the offense. He still has to improve. And let me just say this. Every aspect of the team, they have to improve. And you have the summer up until fall camp to do so. Noah Bolton, statistically, had the best stats, but there also were some drop interceptions. Could have been some pick six. And to me, looking at the quarterback's play, Blood didn't surprise me based on what I was told. Bolton is fighting some injuries. But Dallin Mahatra, I kind of came in looking at him because to me, he's the most unknown. And athletically, I was surprised. That's just me now, my opinion. I was surprised that he's more athletic than I thought coming in. Also, he has a throwing motion kind of like Phillip Rivers. It's not like over, it's not under, it's somewhere like a click or two in between. But I still I'm of the opinion that this quarterback room is much better than last year. Running backs, solid. Kobe Dillon looked well. Kendrick Rhymes. Gerard Sims is back. I mean, you've got studs at the running back position, and I think that is going to be an area that you won't have to be concerned with. Receivers, freshman, Mr. Morris, I call him that, redshirt freshman, and then George Qualls, transfer from University of Tennessee, Chattanooga. They are playmakers. And then you had Tyler Kirkwood. O-line will need some added depth, and you'll see some added depth come between now and the end of the semester or the beginning of the summer session. Defense seems to be quick. They look to improve on last year. Statistically, they were second. And then the secondary seemed to be very solid. But once again, very vanilla. Running backs will be involved in the passing attack heavily. And then the longest play from scrimmage was Kendrick Grimes, about 67 yards. So that's kind of just my take on it. You got to expect improvement. You have to have an improvement. You want to work on depth. As I always talk about, I think coaches know who their starters are going into fall camp. You want to see how the backups perform. And then you want to still see competition. And then they're going to add two tremendous freshman quarterbacks that come in. Where will they play in? Will they redshirt? Will they push for playing time? Got a chance to see Willie Totten, and he officially was hired although he's been working with the football program yesterday. And you could tell the experience he brings, helping the quarterbacks. I saw plenty of times quarterback comes off the field, he's in their ear. He's talking to them. So you can't beat that experience. And, of course, Coach Totten brings a lot of experience and also played the position. Special teams going to need some work. They were 1 of 4 on field goal attempts, punting. Pretty solid, but you have to just have some work with that. So overall, continue to improve to get better, and we'll see what happens. Charles, Alcorn State, spring practice, a spring game.
Yeah. From what I was, and of course I was in Baton Rouge last week for that. It was a pretty vanilla scrimmage. We saw some good quarterback play. Of course, Tyler Macon, the University of Missouri transfer, got some snaps. The running game, Jarvion Howard looked pretty good from what I was told. But the thing that I was told more so than anything was that our defense really showed out in the scrimmage. And if you remember last year, at the end of last year, the Braves defense was really outstanding. You go back to the preview game, you keep Jackson State in check. And so the defense kind of picked up where they left off at the end of last year. So the defense won the scrimmage. We've got some work to do as far as the offensive line is concerned. I think that's going to be a big issue in trying to protect. But our defense was really aggressive. Jarvion Howard looked good. And, just like Southern University's got some work to do in the special teams. Coach McNair's got a bunch of kickers in there. Got to try to work through that. So I think what the Braves got out of it is what they wanted to. Just to see Tyler Macon, him slinging the ball around, I think a lot of people are excited about him. The true dual threat quarterback that we've been looking for if you go back to a Felix Harper a couple of years ago. So I think when you look at that, I think offensively we have to be a little bit, a little more creative in terms of how we do things. I think you're going to see a lot more involvement on the sidelines. Coach Phillips is the quarterback's coach, but he'll be more involved in the offense with Elliott Ratton being the OC. So I do think you'll see more diversity. I think you'll see more creativity offensively, especially when you have a dual threat in Tyler Macon. So I think the O-line's got a little work to do. Defense looks good. Running game looks good with Jarvion Howard. And I think the Braves have some pieces to be able to make a run at this thing, especially with, the unknowns that we're seeing. What you're saying at Southern is really scary in terms of the running attack. You talk about Washington and Kobe Dillon. We know what those guys could do, period. I've seen them in person. And I've seen them pound the rock. So I think you look at that, you look at the Western Division, kind of up for grabs, even though Southern's got a lot of pieces coming back. We do too. So I think the Braves still have a little bit of work to do, and just a matter of piecing this thing together continually as we get ready for USM.
And I think every program will come out and say the same thing because it's true. You have some work to complete. You have to get better in all phases offense, special teams, defense. That's what spring is for, to help strengthen things that are strong, to get better, excuse me, on things that you need help on. And you look at quarterback, it normally is going to get a lot of the attention. Um, and I still say, the team that can have a quarterback that can throw it, spin it, make all the throws, lead the team. And to me, a team is the most dangerous when they can do both well, running and throwing it. And we looked at Southern University last year. They could run the football. They were inconsistent in the passing attack. And then you have some receivers like Darren Morris. I mean, now he left the game with an injury, but the redshirt freshman comes from an outstanding high school program. Coach Darrell Asbury at Southern Lab, and then George Qualls. Then you have Tyler Kirkwood. I want to see, and it's just me. I would like to see more involvement with tight ends in the offense. I stated earlier, the running backs, what I saw last Saturday, they were involved in the passing game a lot. So you got Gerard Sims coming out in the pass routes underneath. You got Kobe Dillon, Kendrick Rhymes. I mean, um, and that's just not to mention other running backs, but those are the main ones that teams are going to concentrate on. O-line play has to get better, as I stated earlier, and then the defensive line. Then they're going to have some pieces coming in after this semester. So how quickly those players can mesh with the program, and of course, Coach Dooley and the staff, they still have, I think, like most coaches, they'll have 3 or 4 or 5 scholarships available if they see something enticing that fits the program. They on social media saw pictures. Southern still entertaining recruits. Transfer portal opens back up, so the team that you see now will have a slight difference going into the summer session, and hopefully you get all of the student athletes in summer school working toward their degree, and then conditioning, and then before you know it, July 25th will be here, Charles, and I'm looking forward to the SWAC Football Media Days. Also, a chance to see your colleagues that you haven't seen in a year, in some cases 2 years. So, you'll have a couple of new coaches there. You'll have some veteran coaches that'll be there. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah, I mean, right now, just the talk is still. I mean, there's some spring games still to go. I mean, we had our spring game.
Quite a
You
few.
had your spring game. There are a number of schools that still have yet to have their spring game. So the conversation is ongoing in terms of what that's going to look like. Just talking. Jackson State still got their spring game to go. Coach Taylor's been talking about that, and so there's some unknowns. There's still a lot to talk about. And yes, Football New Media Day, the date was announced, and I think this year, just like the last few years, there's going to be a lot more questions than answers in terms of who's the quarterback going to be, the personnel. So I think that just leads to a lot more excitement, a lot more enthusiasm, a lot more intrigue, and a lot more head scratching, I believe, because I'm sure we're going to be talking about that as these decisions are being made.
Well, as we go to this first time out, we're overdue. Who will be the coach that will have the most cameras, the press around them? I'm going to nominate Willie Simmons. I think FAMU, and he's a laid back type of guy. Okay, last year they talked about the drip, who's the best dressed. Of course, Coach Dooley was in the conversation, and last Saturday I saw him. I'm dressed down again. I mean, and then for the spring game, he goes in, comes back out in more of an athletic attire. Hugh Jackson. Um, I'll tell a story. I was going to do it now, but let me get to this first time out. And I'm going to talk about last year, SWAC Football Media Day. Wow, talking about suit and needing shades. Wow, you remember that suit, Charles, he had on last year? Can he outdo himself this year? I hope not. I'm going to make sure I bring some dark shades. The colors are just blinding. We'll take a timeout. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
This
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No. 7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment. Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Coles Brown here, Charles Edmond will be joined shortly by Coach Vann Pettaway. And Charles, Hugh Jackson last year, of course, walking around visiting the different coaches. And so I didn't have this hat on, but I had another Southern University hat, black with 1880 on there. And so he turns around, he's talking to Coach Dooley, and then Coach Dooley walks away. So he's talking to some other members of the media. So he turns around and he notices the hat. And he was like, uh-oh, guys, look here. Here's a Southern guy. I said, that's correct. And you didn't want to hear my prediction about the biggest moment in the football season that was upcoming, which was the 2022. But he wanted to know about that. I didn't dare tell him that I thought Southern would hang a 50-piece on Grambling State. But that was my big prediction. Of course, it didn't work out. But Brian Fulford, who's producing today's show, he agreed with me that Willie Simmons, Hugh Jackson, and Coach Dooley will probably have a lot of media around them, but they'll be um, looking at some of the newer coaches, the new coaches. TC Taylor, hey, we got to add him. He's going to have a lot of people around him as well because he takes over for Jackson State. But Willie Simmons, and then the early prediction I was saying during the break. I got my eye on FAMU. Recruiting across the board, they've come close. Jackson State and FAMU, eye to eye. But as you stated, Charles, watch out for Alabama State, Alabama A&M. You cannot underestimate anybody on any given Saturday. So you just want to win the week. But it'll be an exciting time. SWAC Football Media Day, July 25th in Birmingham, the Sheraton Hotel.
Well, the initial, in my opinion, I think the initial media attention is going to be on the two coaches that represented their divisions and the one coach that won the SWAC championship. We follow winners.
Mm-hmm.
So you look at Prairie View's coach. Of course, you look at TC Taylor in so many different ways, taking over for Coach Sanders. How can you duplicate with all the talent that's lost? With Shador Sanders leaving and all the players have left to go to Colorado and players have transferred out, there will be a lot of cameras on TC Taylor in terms of what his plan is to keep Jackson State at a high level. I do think for Prairie View, they let the division slip away last year. How that loss to Alcorn really hurt their chances to win the Western Division. But at the same time, there'll be pressure there. Coach Dooley obviously winning the West. There'll be cameras on him. I think he'll be the best dressed coach there. No question about it. It won't even be close in my mind. There's no one that dresses like Coach Dooley. No one. You can put Coach Sanders right there, but he's no longer there. So I think Coach Dooley will try to outdo everyone above and beyond. Even though, Hugh Jackson and Grambling look good. I made this recommendation to Andrew Roberts of the SWAC office because Media Day has gotten really big. I suggested, with all the bling and all the fashion, have a red carpet type thing leading up to Media Day. And
oh my
Andrew
goodness,
Roberts thought that was a really good idea. I mean, just see who comes in, best dressed, and just have a big lead up to it. It hadn't gotten any more, traction ever since I brought it up. This was right after Media Day last year. But there will be a lot of well-dressed people. There'll be a lot of well-dressed coaches and players. And there'll be a lot of conversation. I do think that for Willie Simmons, this has got to be it. This has got to be the opportunity. If you don't get Jackson State, then you got to look at a much improved Bama State team. I think they exceeded a lot of expectations last year, winning that MEAC SWAC. Coach Eddie Robinson Jr. quietly is kind of building things there. No one's really talking about Bama State. So I think on the eastern side, for FAMU, if they don't get Jackson State and the confidence wavers again, even though they have picked themselves up after they lose to Jackson State, they seem to get it together. But you can't afford the slip of the foot in that Miami Classic for sure.
It'll be very interesting, and as we get closer to SWAC Football Media Day, we'll take a look. We usually have you kind of rank the coaches, fair or unfair. Which coaches will be under the most pressure? I know we can say all of the coaches, but just jumping right out, TC Taylor. How do you keep the train going? Coach Dooley at Southern University. The slogan is "Southern is a standard." Under pressure, and Fred McNair. No one talks about it, but I think he's under pressure. Now he handles pressure very well. He's going to do what he has to do, and but a lot of pressure across the board. Coach McDowell at Prairie View. Now you mentioned that Alcorn game, but even though they lost that game, they lost to Valley for the second year in a row, and that kept them out. So you can't sleep on anybody. You really can't. So we'll see what happens as we get closer and closer to SWAC Football Media Day. Charles, Graham State women, they've hired Courtney Simmons, a Baton Rouge native. Got her from Troy State. And if I do remember, she was a finalist for the job that Coach Funches got elevated to head coach. Um, Coming from a program at Troy that they win, I think on paper, and we have to say it this way, we'll see 3 years from now, what happens. But on paper, it seems to be a very uh, good hire. Collegiately, she played at Louisville, and so she'll hit the ground running. And of course, their director of athletics is a Baton Rouge native, so Dr. Scott. So he kind of had a relationship already established with her, and she gets the job at Grambling State.
Interesting hire. I didn't see that one coming. That was kind of out of the box hire for sure. There was some rumors of some folks that were already at SWAC schools that could have been, had an opportunity to get that gig. But it didn't go that way, and so Coach Scott going outside the box, outside of the SWAC box, I should say. And so we'll see. I mean, Grambling's a program with a great tradition. You go back to the Pat Bibbs of the world, the Rusty Pontons of the world that elevated that program to a championship level. Now you have a coach there, a young coach that's trying to do the same. It's going to take some work. It's going to take some time, but I think that's the first women's basketball hire that Dr. Scott has had to put his hands on. So I'm sure he'll give it a little bit of time to see if it'll grow and develop. And hey, you got to hit the ground running. We'll see. As a Grambling night, interesting hire. Not against it, because I don't know their new coach, but it was something that I didn't think about, something that wasn't on my radar. But we'll see if it works out.
Well, and some of the times you have discussions about you have the term, do you continuously recycle coaches or the coaches that you know? Um, Coaches outside the SWAC realm, and this one fits that hire. Southern University last week fits that narrative. Hiring Coach Johnson, who, by the way, I put in a request to get him on the show, and I'm waiting to hear back. Although from the state of Louisiana, but most of his coaching has been outside the SWAC. So that is something that's often discussed, even on social media. Um, you know, how is that the way you want to go? Do you want to go with someone that has conference or the institution's background? But I think you have to get the best person for the job, and that that goes with the director of athletics if they have a direct hire or if they have a committee. Um, that's just some of the choices that you have. But we see those two hires, the latest two hires. It's outside the SWAC blueprint, and we'll see what happens with that. But I think it's a good hire, and I'm not really shocked by it because I know of Coach Simmons, and what happened as far as Southern University, and I actually thought she was going to get the job at Southern University, but then hey, Coach Banks makes the decision, and you go with it. Whoever your institution or your alum of, and when they make a decision, you have to support it, whether it was your first choice or not. But of course, you're not the director of athletics, so uh, we will see. We will see. We'll 2 or 3 years from now, we'll look at where Grambling State's women's basketball program. They have a tradition, they have a history, and they have won in previous seasons. So a native of Baton Rouge. She played at the University of Louisville, 2006 to 2008, two NCAA tournament appearances and a Sweet 16 appearance. Prior to her 2 seasons at Louisville, she played 1 season at Trinity Valley after beginning her career at Tulane in 2004 and 2005. Courtney Simmons, the new women's basketball coach at Grambling State. Charles, none. Well, I won't say non-sports, but Texas Southern. Congratulations! They the national champions of the National Cheerleading Association Collegiate Cheer, and that's the first time a HBCU has won it. So kudos to the Texas Southern cheerleaders. That's historic in itself. And it's always, no matter what year, somebody's making history on the HBCU level.
Yeah, it's good to see that. And we don't talk a lot about the non, we always talk about the big sports, football, basketball, baseball, all that. But, we talk about gymnastics. We talk about on the HBCU level, I think Fisk and their gymnastics team. And so you talk about Texas Southern and the cheer team. So, hey, these are great athletes that are doing these things. Those are great programs that are doing these things. So congratulations to Texas Southern. Dr. Granger continues to do good things there at Texas Southern with, of course, with men's and women's basketball in the up and up, and in football, maybe turning the corner. And now you have that. So it just thumbs up to everybody involved.
Thumbs up. What we're going to do a little bit earlier, we're going to take a timeout. Let's see if we can grab Coach Pettaway. He's scheduled to join us. We'll be back. You're watching the Coles Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
There's a shot. To right. Might be. It could be. Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Itchy, squirmy, scratchy, family not getting clean? Get Charmin Ultra Strong.
Go get 'em.
It just cleans better. With a diamond weave texture, your family can use less while still getting clean.
Goodbye, itchy squirm. Hello, cream bottom.
We all go. Why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never, ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's
Boy, I'm about to send a message to Mike. See you in Alcorn this football season. Mike, you know who I'm talking about. Mike says Alcorn running backs he thinks they're the top in the conference as far as running backs. Well, it's a long way to go until fall camp. Hopefully, it will be an exciting season. Welcome back to the Coles Brown Show. Now we're joined by Coach Pettaway. I simply call him the basketball analyst for the Coles Brown Show. Coach Pettaway, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Carlos. I'm happy to be here, and I'm even more happy to hear you talk about college football. I love football myself. I do try to travel during the football season, And in fact, one of my better game day experiences was my brothers and I, we went to Alcorn. We had a game day experience down at Alcorn, and it was real nice. And I was real impressed with the RV park that they have down there. And we had a lot of we had a great time. And then, of course, I've always been a fan of the way Southern does things. I have also tailgated at Southern University, so it's been great. So far, I've been to Grambling, I've been to Southern, of course, Alabama State. I've been to Valley. Have not tailgated at Prairie View and Texas Southern, so that's on my bucket list. That's on my bucket list. That's, to be honest, that's all I have left. Oh no, I don't. I got to add now. I now must add FAMU and Bethune, and FAM would have been out of the way, but the RV messed up the day before we took off. So I would have had Tallahassee out of the way. But my goal is to make sure that I have gone to experienced all of the SWAT football tailgating, and I'm still working towards that.
Well, your list is a little bit better than mine's. Believe it or not, I'm going to say this again, Charles. I haven't been to Grambling's campus, and every time I say this, I'll get an email. Yeah, see how you're saying what? I've taken to task for that. I've been to Valley in the '80s. My goodness, I couldn't appreciate it because I was a much younger man then. Actually about 20 years old, and I thought we were going to the end of the earth. It seemed to be that long, and I'm in the back seat, and my grandmother and my grandfather were driving. Believe it or not, that ended up being an 8-hour trip, and they didn't believe in stopping after the game to get a hotel. That's a long drive from Ida Bena to Baton Rouge. Alabama State. If thing goes well, I'll be there this year, the opener. And of course, I haven't been to Prairie View. I've been to the game of Texas Southern. I've been to Alcorn, been to Jackson. So I do have a little more work to do on my bucket list. But Coach Pettaway,
yes,
basketball. We talked about the Final Four, and we got the final two teams right. But UConn gets it done. They're the national champions on the men's side and on the women's side. LSU. And boy, I mean, to me, it's all about the game. But after the game, it has been on the national stage every day. And I mean every day. But congratulations to LSU women and UConn men. Your thoughts on the prospective games?
Well, I'm gonna start with the men. I predicted that UConn would win after we got into the Final Four, and I felt like that because of their depth, their size, and man, they got after you, man. They were relentless. And then when you looked at San Diego State, they had too many scoring drops throughout the tournament. Even in the games that they won, they had to come from behind because of the scoring drops. So I thought Coach did a great job with UConn. He's got that pedigree. His dad, his brother. So the Hurleys are well known in the basketball world. So I'm proud of them for winning, and we have to start putting them in. When we start mentioning blue bloods, they've won 5 national championships. Same as Duke. Duke is always mentioned.
Remember, yeah,
right? Mentioned as one of the blue bloods of college basketball. So they got to start. They got to give UConn some respect now and start giving them that. One of the things that I've always thought about, we keep mentioning UCLA. I thought UCLA got most of their championships under the John Wooden era, and that's 30, 40 years ago. So to bring it fast forward, I still think Kansas, Duke, North Carolina. I think those are the programs that when you start talking about blue bloods, Kentucky, those are the blue bloods when it comes to men's basketball. Now on the women's side, this was one of the most exciting tournaments I've ever
had an opportunity to watch. I thought the women's basketball showed those young ladies showed the world how they can play the game of basketball, how the game is being played below the rim, how they're executing their half court offense. And I thought LSU did an outstanding job of bottling up. They did not stop Caitlin Clark, but they reduced her touches and they slowed her up enough to where she could not single-handedly beat them. You know, it was a total team effort by LSU. I thought Coach Mulkey had a great game plan, and those young ladies went out and they played their hearts out, man. They put it all on the line. Now, the controversy. A lot of people are talking about what Miss Reese did and holding up the finger. Well, first putting a hand over her face saying that you know, you can't or you can or cannot see me. And right, and then of course, you know, pointing to her ring finger. Well, now you got to look at the total. The you got to look at the total thing. Don't just take that one incident. If you go back to the Louisville game, if you go back to the South Carolina game, there were things in that game that Caitlin Clark did that the public they didn't harp about it that much. Okay, but she did some of the exact same things in that game, in those games. And then, of course, because she did not win the title and LSU did come out on top, yes, Miss Reese did her thing. But don't all teams and all sports, don't they have people on their respective squads that played on the edge? That's all that was, man. That's just people
Mm-hmm.
competing. Those were two teams that just really competed. They got after each other, and it's called smack talking. They're gonna talk smack. I
Oh
think
yeah.
sometimes I think sometimes a little bit of that makes the games more interesting. You know, we as coaches,
Mm-hmm.
we tell our players not to do it, but when emotions become involved, man, sometimes things like that will happen. And I
Yeah.
just think that we need, you know, the media needs to give it a rest because the players have. You know, Caitlin's moved on. Miss Reese is
Mm-hmm.
trying to move on, but you know, all this attention uh, that this incident has brought, it hadn't hurt Miss Reese because right now, if I'm reading it correctly, since the playoffs, she has gained more NIL deals, and right now
Mm-hmm.
she's supposed to be the top NIL person in the country, male or female, when it comes to basketball.
And,
So on
and
the
and
basketball
coach,
side, she has capitalized on it.
right? And
Go
coach,
ahead.
even before the championship, her NIL deals were, even from the financial aspect, was pretty
Right.
good. Charles, let's just say this: some people who are not used to those type of games, sometimes the culture of it, like I'm gonna bring it this way. You've been to a swag baseball game and softball. A lot of chatting is going on in the dugout. Um, a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Baseball. Um, they do these type of things. So if you're not really used to it, then you call it out as, not being professional, a professionalism. But a lot of that goes on in in baseball, football, and in basketball. A lot of smack, trash talking. Everybody does it. For example, in the NBA, who do you think was one of the best trash talkers? And that's just a term I'm gonna use. And he was an African American. You want to take a guess?
Michael.
Larry Bird. Yeah, Larry Bird could talk a lot of smack, but backed it up as well.
All right.
Miss Reese backed it up. She's outstanding. And Coach Pettaway, their bigs were much more athletic than Virginia
Yep.
Tech's and also Iowa. Quite
Yep.
simply, they were more athletic. Charles?
Yeah, I think, for as far as the women's Final Four and LSU, congratulations to them. I think for us in society, I think we weren't used to seeing all that smack talk and all that trash talking going on the women's side of the ledger. I think that's what's got a lot of people sideways. You see it on the men's side, you see it, but on the women's side, you hadn't seen it until now. And I think it's caught a lot of people off guard. Now, I'm not one for all the extra stuff. I mean, I was at your house. We were looking at the championship game, LSU last year, and just it looked kind of uncomfortable if you're not used to it. And so I think what this may do going forward, because LSU is going to be in contention for the next several years. They got one of the top recruits already that's going to commit to them for next year. I think you're going to probably see more of this, and I think it's good for the game. And look, I've heard the comparisons when Curry goes at it, when Draymond Green, and all the smack talking in the NBA. Nobody has a problem with that. If you can talk, you got to back it up. And when you don't, you're going to get called out on it, but they can, and they have. And so for Reese and, for Iowa and LSU, all the smack talk, both teams backed it up. There's only going to be one champion, and LSU was that team. I thought the better matchup would have been South Carolina. And I really didn't look at Iowa's game with South Carolina, and I'm looking at that LSU game last week, and I'm wondering how in the world did South Carolina lose to Iowa? I mean, I'm still kind of wrapping my brain around that, but it didn't happen. That's what makes sports the way it is. Matchups, you got to play it out. And hey, South Carolina just didn't have it. They didn't have perimeter defense. They and all of that. So. But I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I think it's more exciting for the women's game when you have some of that going on. It makes it more exciting. You got to back it up. LSU did that. Reese did that. And congratulations to them. Now, as far as the SWAC is concerned, and it's interesting you bring that up about SWAC baseball in the smack talk. Our baseball coach, Reggie Williams, is his second year. His first year, he dealt with a lot of that stuff. He dealt with a lot of that trash talking on from the other dugout, and he didn't like it. He didn't like it whatsoever. And he's talked to his team about playing with class and dignity and play the game the right way. Now, on the other side of it, it's like SWAC baseball, the smack talk, SWAC softball. There's a lot of smack talk there. This is what we do. Get used to it. And so it does trickle down. We have that in our game as well in the SWAC. And if you can back it up, fine. As long as it doesn't become dirty and egregious and crosses the line. I think it's great entertainment. I think it's great energy and enthusiasm from everyone, as long as it doesn't get out of hand. And I think that's kind of where it has gone. Some people feel like it's gotten out of hand with LSU and the back and forth. But I had a problem with it initially, but I'm like, you know what? This may be the best thing for the women's game, because they don't get the ratings. They don't get the play. They don't get the media coverage. This is the most watched NCAA women's tournament in the history. So I think this may be the start of something here. This may be a start of something good, not only for college basketball, but especially the women's game.
Well, I mean, Coach Pettaway, it was entertaining and it was exciting. And that part, what happened at the game, that's the secondary thing. I mean, it was actually outstanding to watch. And women athletes are competitors as well. They're athletes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think you're gonna have that, man. I mean, they started in little league and in bitty basketball with people talking smack, but you try to teach the kids at an early age to leave that alone. But when emotions come out, man, it's just gonna happen. That's just gonna be a part of it. And I've been watching the women's game. I've always watched the women's game. I like watching certain coaches, like in our league, man. There were certain female coaches when their teams played us at A&M. Man, I was there for the tip because I like watching them. I like learning. I would like good basketball, whether it's male or female. And still to this day, one of my favorite local teams is one of our girls basketball teams that won the 6A championship. I follow them like I have a vested interest, man. I just like how they play. I like their style of play. I like how they get after people. And they're one of the best teams in the country, man. So great basketball. They're going to bring a new audience, man. I think the women's game, this women's tournament, they're going to see an uptick from here on out because they saw some exciting basketball, and some people just didn't understand or know that women can play the way they play.
Mm-hmm.
There's some very
Yeah.
skilled ladies out there, man. And then they
And you
got
know,
some super coaches out there. Yep.
And
and you
even
know,
Carlos, the intensity for SWAC women. I mean, you look at the
mm-hmm.
Cynthia Coopers of the world, you look at the Vernette Skeets of the world, you look at the Tamika Reeds of the world.
Yep.
You look at Frida Jackson. I mean, those are about as intense of coaches as you can get, and their teams are a reflection of their coach. So you're seeing some of that even in SWAC women's basketball. You're seeing some of that now, and who knows, Grambling with their new hire, who knows what she's going to bring to the table in terms of intensity. I'm pretty sure that's probably going to happen too. So you're seeing it at even in SWAC women's basketball, even on the men's side with Johnny Jones, Landon Bussey, the intensity that he brings that I think other teams are going to try to replicate and duplicate coming off of back-to-back regular season championships. So you're seeing that passion, you're seeing that intensity, you're seeing that hard play on the men's and women's side. So I think, we don't talk about it at our level as far as the SWAC, but we are getting a little bit of that too. You're getting some of that passion, that emotion, and that intensity. And I think it's good. It's good for SWAC basketball too.
Yeah, because I always talked about Coach Pettaway when he came to the FG Clark Activity Center. Very passionate. Now, some of the coaches and Coach Pettaway won. But now, for example, Johnny Jones. Now, we're talking about court demeanor, or we talking about personality as well. To me, Johnny Jones is mild-mannered, on the court. But guess what? When it's tournament time, bam, he does well. Coach Funches is mild-mannered to me. Now, that's my definition. Now, Tamika Reed, intense. Intense. Who else am I missing on the women's side?
Frida Jackson.
Coach.
Frida
Yeah,
Jackson.
intense. Intense.
I think Margaret Richards of Alabama A&M is intense. I've seen her get riled up at times. I think Margaret Richards, quiet as it kept, is kind of the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
Don Brown, Thornton.
Yes.
At UAPB, intense. How about Purview's women coach? Now, see, she told me years ago she was more intense in practice, but game day she's more mild mannered because she said if you're over excited, then your team kind of catches that feeling. So she said she did most of her screaming and hollering and just intensity we're doing practice. Brought all that up to say this, Coach Pettaway. You need a little bit of this. Of course, you need X's and O's. You got to be kind of a CEO. You got to have good assistants that you can rely on. If something happens to you health-wise or something, you have the utmost confidence in your assistant coaches. So that brings me to this. Assistant coaches, no matter what level, football, basketball, baseball, Coach Pettaway, I think they should financially be rewarded more because I've kind of seen some of the at Southern University, some of the coaches and the ADs and what they make, and it's unbalanced, it's uneven. I like to see some more equity as far as paying the assistant coaches more. And I can't speak for other institutions, but somehow I sense that they feel the same way at other institutions in the conference. Should position coaches, assistant coaches, should they earn more?
Yes, they should earn more. That's the only way you're gonna be able to keep them. If you got a good assistant, you better be about trying to get that assistant paid to keep that assistant from going somewhere else where they're gonna get more money, where they can take care of their family better. I think in the SWAC, well, to me now, it's not just assistants. If you look at the salaries of the coaches in the SWAC, the head coaches, they're not where they need to be. So if the head coach's salaries aren't where they need to be, you know the assistant coaches aren't going to be where they need to be. You got you got Power 5 assistant coaches that make more money than some SWAC head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's hard to get some assistants to leave a Power 5 to come and be a head coach in the SWAC because they're making more money. Now, that guy, if he really wants to be a head coach, he might sacrifice that salary for a year or two just to be a head coach. But in terms of finances, there are a lot of Power 5 assistants that are making more money than our head coaches. So, see, something needs to be done about that. We need to really look at that so that you will retain the best coaches that are out there in the SWAC. And see, the money thing is not going to ever go away because there's such a big disparity in the salaries across the board when it comes to Division I basketball. In FCS football, there's a disparity in the coaches, the head coaches, and assistant coaches' salaries. So it's a disparity from league to league. I guarantee you the Southland coaches make more than the SWAC coaches. We're the same. We're on the same level, but they make more. So it's a big issue that the administrators are going to have to sit down and look at, and they just got to do it, man. You want a good athletic program? It costs. There's a cost to pay, and no head coach is going to be successful without good assistants. I don't care what level you're on. If you don't have good assistant coaches, it's not going to work. And you got more and more on your plate now. We didn't have the NILs. We didn't have the transfer portal. The transfer portal has hurt us right now in the SWAC. You look at Alcorn. They lost Bruton and Montgomery.
I saw that.
That's over 22 points coming off of Bussey's roster. 22 veteran points. I'm talking about two guys that know how to play in the SWAC. That's going to hurt. Okay, you go over to Prairie View. Gamber's in the portal. Well, I don't think Southern's going to miss. Williams is in the portal at Southern, but I'm not sure how much, if that's going to be a big impact. Arkansas Pine Bluff has 2 kids. I don't think that's going to hurt. But now you look at all that Valley. Their top 2 scorers are gone at Mississippi Valley. Mosley and Brown.
P.J. Henry at Texas Southern.
Oh, yep. And then also at Texas Southern, you got Martin. Martin's in the portal. But I don't think they're going to miss Isaiah Martin as much. Alabama State has 4 people in the portal. Posey, McCord, Anderson. Florida A&M has, they're losing Tillman. That was 10 points a game. So, see, we're talking about coaches. You got added stress, added responsibilities with this portal and this NIL, trying to keep kids that you've already recruited on your campus to your campus. You got to re-recruit them to keep them to stay. And that's tough, man. And people don't. We don't see it yet, man. We don't see it yet.
And then scholarships are year to year, but I remember a time when it was you made a commitment, it was honored for 4 years. I remember a kid was in an accident, not a playing accident, but just a non-playing accident, and Southern honored that kid's scholarship for 3 more years. He's a former football player, so ever-changing athletics. I mean, I will tell you, it is a tough job. I understand coaches, director of athletics, and boy, you better have a chancellor president that is on board with you. That could make a difference. And I agree, Coach Pettaway. You got to sit down and always try to improve. You can't rest on your laurels. We used to use the term, we're in 2023. The 1990s model is outdated. And so you got to update, just like the computer science programmers out there. or the kids who are majoring in there, there's always updates, and you got to update your programs. Charles, hold that thought. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, it'll be more of the Carlos Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com. This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients.
Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
Some carriers will give you just one measly entertainment subscription. One is no fun. With Verizon, there's up to 7 entertainment subscriptions with your unlimited plan. That's 7 times the... 7 times the... No! 7 times the... Music, gaming, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and more. That's 7 times the entertainment! Because everyone deserves better. And with plans starting at just $35, better costs less than you think.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Carlos Brown Show. We've added another piece. We're going to get the Director of Athletics piece from Willa Brown. We have Coach Pettaway joining us also, continuing to join us from the coaching perspective. Charles, I guess me and you are coming from the perspective of the non-coaching and the non-AD perspective. But good good afternoon to everyone. Willa, you heard the conversation leading up to the point. I think I brought up a 1990s model versus a 2023 model, and you during the break you said, yeah, the model should be different, but the money's the same. So how do we get extra funding? Because I know some institutions are state institutions, some rely on auxiliary organizations. I guess very little. But what is kind of the solution to in your opinion, to bring the model, our HBCUs, to get from a financial standpoint better funding?
Well, I think you have to evaluate your revenue streams. You know, where are your monies coming from? And right now, when you're talking about HBCUs and the HBCU model, quote unquote, you know, on the average, 60, probably upwards of 65% of their monies are coming from student fees. You know, and
Mm-hmm.
we all know how difficult it is when you're talking about trying to raise student fees, that sort of thing. So, you know, you have to try to control those streams that you can control. I mean, you know, you look at ticket prices and things of that nature. You don't want to go haywire with that because you know you do want people to come to your games, things of that nature. You know, I think, you know, there was a time a long time ago where all the ticket prices were the same pretty much, but, you know, probably over the last 15 years or so, folks start charging more for like your homecoming games and all that sort of thing, trying to, you know, maximize those particular revenue streams. You've seen ticket prices go up, you've seen parking prices go up, you've seen tailgating prices go up. You know, the one stream that probably needs to be worked on the most is the giving, you know, the alumni streams and things of that nature. You know, we talk about some of these other revenue streams like you know, your TV and, you know, things of that nature. And most of those things are, you know, are governed by the conference in and of itself. So, you know, in some instances, that's a plus, but in a lot of ways for your more marketable type schools, it becomes a minus. And because I'm sure that there are probably a lot of other schools, a lot of well-named schools like Southern, maybe Jackson State, you know, North Carolina A&T, a few others that could probably do better, you know, if they ventured out there in terms of their own media rights deals and things of that nature. But, you know, when you're part of a conference and you're swept up in the conference deal, you know, then it kind of limits you. So, you know, there's some things that you can control, but a lot of things that you cannot control. And, you know, while budgets increase, you know, pretty much not on a yearly basis, but you know, on a regular basis. But it's not enough to keep up with inflation. Costs go up every year. Travel costs go up every year. Hotels, meals. I mean, the whole nine yards. And you know, while I agree with Coach Pettaway in terms of assistant coaches being paid more, you know, the question becomes once again, you know, where does the money come from? You know, the head coach take a little bit less in order to keep that top quality assistant on his staff. If I'm a head
Mm-hmm.
coach and I got a guy that I can't do without, you know, then if I got to bite the bullet at the end of the day in order to keep that guy, then I got to look at, you know, the possibility of biting the bullet and trying to, you know, decrease my salary a little bit in order to increase his. But you know, there's got to be a way to find a way to get it done. It's just so difficult because you got so many hands in the pot, Carlos. You know, everybody's
Hmm.
touching athletics on your campus, that sort of thing. And, you know, you talk about auxiliary services and, you know, you talk about a lot of the other auxiliaries, that sort of thing. But I mean, they're in it to make money also. And so it's, you know, it's a catch 22 all the way around.
Yeah, and see what I would do, Carlos.
Mm-hmm.
I would sit down. Me and AD Brown, we come together. We sit down after the season is over with, and I'll tell him, look, my top assistant is not making enough money. I know things are tight. This is what I want you to push to the president. I'm going to play one game guarantee. One, we're going to use that money to help supplement his salary and for us to recruit with. Mr. AD, do you think we can get this pushed through to the president? That would be my goal, because you don't have the outside revenues that they can tap into. So a game guarantee is not money that they have on hand. So let me go play this one game, use the funds to come back into the program to make our program more stable. And that's what I would be doing with AD Brown at the end of the season.
A.D. Brown is a tough cookie, but I think he's fair. What would you say to that proposal, A.D. Brown?
Well, I mean, we'd have to discuss playing a quote unquote extra guarantee game,
Well, I know he's
and
going to say
money
more than
from
one.
that extra guarantee game, maybe going into the program, in and of itself, and I could see that. I would not have a problem with that at all. The problem probably
Right.
would be maybe selling it to the president, that sort of thing, because you know what does soccer do? What does volleyball do? What does softball do? I mean, they got the same kinds of needs, maybe not on a as grand a scale, but I could get with that very easily. If my
Right.
coach came in and we had scheduled 9 guarantee games to play, and he's willing to go and take forth that 10th game, and I could see taking those funds from that 10th game and putting it into, that particular basketball program in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And that's
And
something
that's
that I
all you
did
ask for.
when I was at A&T. My men's basketball coach, Jerry Eves, he would play an extra guarantee game or two, and I would make sure that the money went into his program. He built a weight room in the basketball gym, off of money from that extra guarantee game. He was able to pay a couple of his assistant coaches a little side bonus, things of that nature. He'd get a TV for the locker room, or get the lockers spruced up, that sort of thing and stuff. So, it's a great idea and something that, that needs to be looked at. At the same time, you're looking at the possibility of putting another L on your resume. And, while I understand it, when that you go before that next AD, your resume goes before that next AD, and he's looking at all those losses that you got on your resume, he may not understand it as much as I do. So, remains to be
Yeah.
seen.
Well, it's
Based
interesting.
on my, I was going to mention, Carlos, based on my understanding, and A. Brown can kind of help with this too. Based on what I've known in the past, typically there are meetings between the AD, the coach, and your chief fiscal officer before the season, in which there's a certain amount of money that you're expected to bring in for guaranteed
Mm-hmm.
games, and it's up to you to find those games to make it fit, make the money fit. And as has been mentioned, anything over that, then you can skim off that and do some other stuff, with that, in terms of paying coaches and other projects that you might want done. I look at Texas Southern, and I think that's other teams have talked about TSU. If you look at Johnny Jones' staff, how many coaches does he have on that staff, on that bench? When you look at Texas Southern, he's got 5 or 6 guys. Those guys, and most of them are veteran coaches, veteran assistants that are being paid pretty well. So the money to take care of that, does that come from university? Does that come from guarantees? And you look at TSU's schedule, and you see they've got 10 and 11 and 12 games playing Michigan State and Kansas State. They're getting $100,000 per pop every time they're playing those schools. They're getting 6 figures. They're getting 6 or 7 of those games. That's $700,000 right there. Now, how much of that they keep, I don't know. But when you look at the amount of money they bring in, you got to pay for that program, the infrastructure improvements at the arena, assistant coaches. Their program looks really nice when you look at it, the eye candy, the men's basketball offices, the locker rooms, Johnny Jones' salary above and beyond is the highest paid coach in the SWAC, bar none. There's not even anyone within, close. He's making well over two. I don't know if any other coach is even close to that. So, I think the guarantees are the way to go. We might not like it, but if you want to bring in a big chunk of money in a short period of time, that's the guarantees. And I think it's been required for most of our coaches and ADs to bring in X amount of dollars, whether it's 500, 600, 700, $800,000. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of guarantees. And as Wheeler Brown said, a lot of L's that unfortunately you're going to experience to bring in that type of money.
Well, I don't like playing. I'm gonna be consistent for the record. We know I'm not an AD, but I don't like playing 9, 10, 11, 12. But if they're gonna get 100% or 90% of that money from playing it, I can understand it. But guess what? Texas Southern has had success, so it's easy to go back and say, "Hey, we've won 9 out of 11 tournament championships." So it is easier. But again, everybody resources wise is not on the same level. Even within the conference, there are haves and have nots. Wheeler, you can't tell me. And again, all hats to Coach Bussey at Alcorn, but they don't have the resources like Texas Southern. But he's been success. It seems like most of the pressure is on basketball to kind of help football, because football brings in the most money. A lot of pressure on basketball coaches to
Well, but
win.
football also spends the most money.
Well,
So,
yeah, I understand.
at the end of the day, you be hard pressed. And when we talk about football making money, when you compare what they bring in, total
Mm-hmm.
revenue, to their expenses, you will be hard pressed to really find them coming in the black. Any football program on our level. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's just when you throw in the whole gamut, scholarships and travel and meals and salaries and the whole 9 yards. When you toss all that together, and you look at ticket prices and you look at parking and you look at the whole 9 yard guarantees and things of that nature. At the end of the day, I'm almost 99.9% sure that there are very, very, very few HBCU programs that come into black as it pertains to football. Our college sports football, is a feel-good sport. It ain't really making no money at the end of the day, but it makes everybody feel good when you're successful. Makes the alums feel good. Hopefully, they dig a little deeper. It makes the campus feel good. The students feel good. The president feels good. He gets some trash talking vibes off of that sort of thing. So, football to me, I've always said football to me, and I love football. I'm a football guy. But as a businessman, at the end of the day, it's a feel good sport, and that's it.
Well, how can we go from being a feel good to a profitable one? What are some
Well, I
solutions?
mean, now that's a tough one, Carlos. That's a tough one. I mean, the dynamics are what the dynamics are, and certain things are not going to change. You are a part of a conference that is in the red, also pretty much, and there's not much that you're going to be able to do about that. The conference pretty much dictates your conference schedule. So at the end of the day, there's only going to be so much dollars that are going to be coming your way, from the rival teams that you would like to play on a yearly basis that maybe that you cannot. I know that I'm gonna get more money playing. I'm gonna just throw a name out there, maybe playing Southern than I would if I'm playing Pine Bluff, but Southern's only coming to me once every other year. So I can only count on that big number every other year, and so, as long as you're going to be dictated to by whatever conference you're in and those things that are out of your control, there's not going to be a whole lot that you're going to be able to do to change that dynamic.
Well, so Wheeler, with the commissioner now, Dr. McClellan, and I think there are some advantages, correct me if I'm wrong, but being in the conference, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh, no doubt about that. You want to be, in an environment with other schools like yourself, not just athletically, but academically. I mean, there are all kind of advantages of being in a conference. There's no doubt about that. But you also have to weigh the cons as well as the pros. From a basketball point of view that, if you have an outstanding season but you don't win your conference tournament, you're not going to the big dance, because you're in a conference where normally just one team gets an opportunity to go to the big dance. And so, there are all kind of pros and cons. I mean, I love being in a conference with other schools that look like me, with, the rivalries and things of that nature that go along with that, the pageantry. I mean, you can't put a price tag on those things, Carlos, at all. It's just that you kind of get into trouble yourself when you try to separate the two or think that one may be more valuable than the other, and you start stepping on toes within your own dynamic. You don't want to raise ticket prices to the point where, average Joe Blow can't bring his family, to the football game, that sort of thing. Or, you charging astronomical fees to get on the tailgate lot, to the point where, your numbers are going to go down, that sort of thing, because that just happens to be, a hot item or a hot ticket. So from an athletic director's point of view, along with your business folk and, your president, things of that nature, that's a fine line that you have to walk at the end of the day. And quite frankly, Carlos, it's a situation where you're damn if you do, damn if you don't. Somebody ain't going to be pleased at the end of the day. But you as the AD are going to have to try to make the best decision possible, for the good of all your programs, as you make the decision, and not just that one single program that's being affected by the decision at that particular time.
Right. AD Brown, let me ask you this. How big would it be, or how big are the corporate dollars? I think that's an area that we all are missing out on. And the reason why I bring that up is because I funded my television show for its entirety through corporate dollars. And if I could put it, if me, the basketball coach, if I can go out and get money to fund my TV and radio show throughout my career, shouldn't the AD be able to go out and bring in corporate dollars?
I think when you talk about those kind of instances, Coach Pettaway, you have to look at who else you're competing with. Institutional advancement is a funny area on everybody's campus. And a lot of times, we're all bumping heads in terms of going to the same entities trying to get dollars. I've been in institutions where, I've been told, don't go here, don't go there, because, we're working on that particular company, or, we're working on this particular entity, that sort of thing. So, if you got free reign to do that, then of course, you'll be able to, go out there and improve your lot, so to speak. But if you don't have free reign like that, then and you got to worry about stepping on toes and, crossing lines and things of that nature, then it becomes really difficult. And then also, Coach, like I said, that's one of the quote unquote advantages / disadvantages of being in a conference also. Because, if I'm pitching my wares to a sponsor that's already one of the conference sponsors, then, we don't want to take away from the whole, trying to get a little piece out of there for my radio show or what any entity that, anything that I'm doing, that sort of thing. So, you got to walk that line. And, and I also say this, if you don't have a good assistant AD, associate AD, if you don't have quality people in those positions, when you're out there trying to beat down doors to get funding and things of that nature, what's happening back at the shop? Who's running the shop? Is everything going as planned, back on campus? Are the kids doing what they need to do? Is your APR where it needs to be? Are folk going to classes? The academics where they need to be? Things of that nature. So, a lot of times as we talk about the AD's position and the AD's primary responsibility is to go out there and raise funds and bring monies into the program, we have to remember that, without those quality people backing me up on campus, and making sure that things are running well in my absence, then I'm taking a real big chance in terms of going out there and beating on doors to the point where I'm neglecting what's going on back at the shop. And so, you got to be a master juggler, and you are only going to be as good as the people that you are allowed to surround yourself with. And that's first and foremost.
Right. And see, now that'll take us back to that same piece where me as a coach, I want to retain my top assistant. You as an AD, you want to make sure that you got quality people around you. So we're both in the same boat, but are we rowing in the same direction? I think sometimes on some of these campuses, the coach is more recognizable than the athletic director. I know that there have been situations where a coach is able to open a door that an AD can't open, and that's only because that coach is out there more. That coach is out in the community more. That coach is seen more. That coach is more recognizable than the athletic director. And if you don't have a good relationship between the two, that could create a problem now.
I think you are absolutely right on that, Coach Pettaway. And my mantra has always been a good AD is seen and not heard. So it's a natural for your coaches to be more visible, that sort of thing. I mean, that's the major part of the dynamic in and of itself. Because you want coaches that are going to be, out there, that are going to be easily recognizable, that sort of thing. They're going to do more to draw people to your department and to your programs overall than an athletic director is ever going to do. And but at the same time, you want those coaches have to walk a tightrope also, because you don't want to take from their ability to get their teams prepared and to put a quality product out there on the floor. So if my coach is so concerned about bringing in funds to the point where his shop is lacking, then at the end of the day, he may be hell of a fundraiser and maybe bringing in some good monies, that sort of thing. But, when we sit down and have that frank conversation about that one loss record, or what have you, or changes occur, you got a new AD comes in or a new president comes in and his philosophy or is not the same as the person who just left out the door. And they may not be as understanding as the guy that just left. So you as a coach got to walk that fine line in terms of making sure that my shop is in place, and that I'm putting a winning product out there on the floor, that sort of thing. My kids are going to class and doing what they're supposed to do. My APR is where it needs to be, and the things of that nature. So yeah, but I want my coach to be more popular than me. Yeah, no doubt about that. Definitely.
And it's interesting, Charles, that you look at And I guess it's a question to everybody. Have you worked with someone like that, kind of have a dual capacity? And we often say it should be we instead of I because we're a team. But just for instance, I think of one coach who was very popular. You can recognize him. Charles, you talked to him last week on your broadcast, who also now I'll put it this way, was allowed to help fund his baseball program, and I think it was part of his salary. Roger Cador. Now, a person like that who gets out and is recognizable, but then also to you guys' point, you got to have that. Sometimes we have a title associate head coach. On the athletic director's position now, you have associate AD for media relations. You have an AD that has a business background. You can incorporate all of that. You agree or disagree to help your athletic department be successful.
I agree. I mean,
Oh,
I just go
definitely.
back throughout the course of my 30 plus years in this league. It's typically almost a one man band. You know, you gotta have a team of people now to make that work. You know, you got a guy at the top who's the AD, but then you also have to have a team of people as far as marketing, as far as going out and beating the bushes and selling the program. Yes, you're the AD and you help close the deal, but you got to have a team of people other than just one or two people to make that happen. Just like on the basketball court, it can't just be Johnny Jones. It can't just be Landon Bussey. Now, Landon Bussey has three coaches, three assistants. I'm sure he would love to have two or three more, but it's not financially feasible. Johnny Jones, on the other hand, has six assistants, probably, maybe seven. I don't know how many, but he's got a bunch over there. But who's paying for that? I'm sure Texas Southern and in part guaranteed. So I think it's just a little bit different dynamic, but I think we all can agree that in all 12 of our institutions, there has to be more more in terms of administration, more than just the AD and maybe one or two others. There has to be a whole bunch more people on the ground and leaving their campuses to make it happen. And right now, it's just not happening. It's just not. You know, it's Ashley Robinson, Jackson State, and maybe one other. You got Raynoy Dito at Alcorn, and you got maybe one other. But as Wheeler Brown said, it's a daily grind on campus to make sure that the business is being handled on the campus. Who's going to handle that? And at the end of the day, our administrations, Carlos, want to talk to the head of that athletic department. They don't want to talk to the assistant. When something goes wrong, who are they going to want to talk to? If something went wrong at Fort Valley, they're going to want at Fort Valley Athletics. The one call that's going to be made is to the AD, is to Wheeler Brown. They don't want to hear from anyone else other than him. And so you got to juggle that, as he mentioned. You got to be on campus, but you got to get off campus to do what you need to do. So in order to do that, you either got to leave the shop, find out what's going on back at your shop, or you got to have people that can leave your shop and you stay at the shop. And I totally agree. That hasn't changed all that much in the 30 plus years that I've been in a part of this league. It's been that way. And unless more money comes in, and which I don't see particularly, and Wheeler Brown brought up a good point too, Carlos, in terms of the expenses of athletics. The one thing that we don't talk about, and it was ingrained to me years ago, scholarships is a big time expense. LSU writes a check for $6 or $7 million just for scholarships because those players need to get in school. So the foundation pays for the scholarships. It's the same way at all of our schools. You can waive that scholarship to the student athlete, but you can't waive it to the university. It still has to be collected. That student has to be paid for, and that's an expense, whatever the tuition is. That's millions of dollars every single year for that. So there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot more money going out than it is going in, and therefore you see where we are in terms of being short ADs, assistant ADs, marketing teams, fundraising, assistant coaches. You see that across the board. It's improved a little, but I think the dynamics today, the pressure to win is a little bit more to where you want coaches to have what they need for the most part and then be evaluated based on that.
Man, there's some interesting comments in the chat room. Willis says, I don't need my president telling my coach he needs to be raising money over winning. Also, Willis says, I do not live with low expectation. The conference needs to stop working in that way and the schools. But the bottom line is we're talking about resources. And again, how do we get more? I know there's a state funding mechanism if you're a state school. What about the HBCUs that are private? How I've heard alumni has to do more, have to give more, right? Southern just had a Jagathon, athletic, where you call in pledges. 86, I think 86,000, 82 to 86,000. Some people say, oh, should be a lot more because you look at the alumni base that Southern has outside of Louisiana. Houston is huge. You got them all over. So we talk about giving back, giving alumni. We've also talked about ADs have a hard job. ADs that should have assistants that can help. Us ADs that have a business background. Coaches, they have to do more with less. So shouldn't all three ADs, president, and coaches go on a tour? Have we seen that?
Yes.
I mean, I've seen
Yes.
that in the
Mm-hmm.
past and go out and
Mm-hmm.
try to reach the people. I know inflation is up. I've heard about expenses. Pretty much, Wheeler, you basically said athletic departments are in the red. Even if we look
Mm-hmm.
up at the higher level, only about 5 or 6 institutions are in the black. A lot of them are in the red.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I get it. I get it. It's tough. The mindset is as such. And I know asking the question, what can we do as far as solutions? You can't answer that right now. But
Well,
boy,
Carlos, I'm gonna say
you got to
this. I'm
start
gonna
doing
say this.
something
Not
else.
to not to interrupt you. But when you're an
Oh,
old
you can
man,
interrupt
your
me.
thoughts come and go, and you gotta spit them out there when you get them. But there's an old adage
Yeah,
out
I know
there,
I'm getting older.
Carlos. You
Mm-hmm.
gotta spend money to make money. Okay, and
Mm-hmm.
what we normally try to do on HBCU level, we want things to increase without having to spend money in order to help facilitate it, in order to help make those
Mm-hmm.
increases happen. We just think that, well, if we go out and talk to a few people, or if we do this or we do that, then we can get the desired result. You got to spend money to make money. If if
Mm-hmm.
if you want a capital campaign, for athletics or what have you, then you got to get the shiny objects. You got to do the fancy brochures. Then these things cost money. You got to do the advertising and all those kind of things that are necessary to get that word out there, to keep that word out there, things of that nature. And we, on the HBCU level, we're reluctant to do that. We want the windfall, behind everything that happens, but we don't want to pay for the process. And until we buckle down and decide that we're going to pay for the process, then it's gonna be what it's gonna be. And I would also say this, Carlos, if you got an AD that's out there banging on doors to try to find sponsors and things of that nature, then 9 times out of 10, his shop back at campus is not what it needs to be. Your AD should be your closer. Okay, there should be
Mm-hmm.
somebody else that's out there banging on that door, setting that table. Okay, and then that person comes back and say, Wheeler, I got IBM on the hook. Need for you to come in and make this presentation. Let's bring it home. These are the things that you're going to need to cover, talk about, la di da, so forth, so on. Let's bring it home. But if you have an AD that's doing all of those things, they're banging on the doors, they're setting the table, and they're trying to close, something else is going to be lacking back at home. It's just the dynamics. It's just the way it is.
Well, that's why I believe an associate head coach, an associate AD with a business background. And it sounds like you're saying, just like in recruiting, your assistants go out and make the pitch, and then the closer comes out of the bullpen. And that is
Exactly.
the head coach. Hold that thought. We got to take a final timeout. This is interesting, the conversation. Hopefully, one day we won't have to have one like this, and everything is just like the pie in the sky. At least that's the goal. You seek perfection, but you may not get it. But boy, you have fun doing it. We'll be back. You're watching the Carlos Brown Show on the Black College Sports Network.
For 200 years, Montgomery, Alabama has been making history by people who had the courage to stand up for change. Today, this riverfront city has been reborn, embracing the past and looking forward to the future. From the National Memorial for Peace and Justice to the stage of the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, this is where history was and is made. We are proud to call Montgomery home, and together, we can be the change.
If you think all pads are exactly the same, think again. This is Always Ultra Thins reinvented with the Always Triple Protection System. This pad wicks gushes 90% faster, absorbs even more so you can feel dry, and locks odors in. Rethink your pad for up to 100% leak-free and odor-free comfort with the totally reinvented Always Ultra Thins. This is always like never before.
There's a shot.
That might be. It could be.
Right field. Grand slam. What a shot. That's how you get hot, young fella.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do, and all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him.
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Anxiety attack.
Yeah. Speaking of Southern University band, I'm sure they feel like they could be funded better, but I know that's probably another piece of the conversation. Welcome back, everyone. We've got about 11, 12 minutes left in today's show. We appreciate Coach Pettaway, Willa Brown, and Charles Edmond joined the conversation. You know, during the break, I brought up, ADs have a tough job. I understand that. Now, in some cases, some institutions are adding back sports. Like example, Southern is adding men's tennis and men and women's golf. Wheeler, that's another piece that you're adding to the athletic program. And look, we're talking about football. Also, you stated that um, they spend the most money, they make the most money. But then we've been talking about basketball and how they can add to the overall athletic budget. I know there's revenue and there's expenses. How do you handle now? If you're in Southern's case, they're adding, and I think FAMU would like to add those sports back. Is that another headache to to your resume, Wheeler?
Well, it's definitely another headache, Carlos. There's no doubt about that. You would only hope that uh, the university sees it as an enrollment driver, because the
Mm-hmm.
majority of those kids hopefully are going to be non-scholarship type kids. So, they're paying their way to get into the institution, Pell Grants and, the whole 9 yards, financial aid, whatever it is that, it needs to, in order for them to be able to attend. So, you hope that that is the main driver, of the gist of adding those particular sports, to help with the enrollment drivers, that sort of thing, to help with overall enrollment, because the majority of those kids, golf kids and soccer kids, that sort of majority of those kids aren't on scholarship. But at the same time, like you just said, I mean, they're going to have expenses. It's going to cost for them to travel, uniforms, equipment, meals. I mean, the whole 9 yards with that. You got to pay coaches and assistant coaches. And, so it's taken away from something, if you don't have provisions already been made, to handle those excess sports.
Interesting. Interesting. I wonder again, is there some way that athletic departments can be helped? I understand about alumni giving back and sponsoring things. Where where do you see our schools? I know it's a kind of a basic question, but where do you see our schools 5, 10 years from now? Because again, some of them are not on the same footing, resources wise. But is there hope? Is there hope for better days ahead?
I think
I
there
think there's
is.
always hope. Yeah. Go ahead, Coach.
No. I think that more and more the new presidents and the new ADs, they're understanding that athletics is a business and they're looking at more on the business side, that we got to spend dollars to make dollars, and we got to start putting people in place who can go out and get these dollars. We got to do a better job of marketing our programs, marketing our university, so that we can compete for those corporate dollars out there. And AD Brown is right. If the AD is not on his campus taking care of his shop, there are too many things that can go wrong. But there should be people already in place on the university staff and in the athletic department to assist in these areas, because everybody's not built the same. Like when I started coaching at A&M, they only did everything for the football team. So what I did, I asked, could this be put in my contract? Okay, you don't provide a basketball show. You don't provide a radio show. You don't provide courtesy cars. Can this be in my contract, and can I go out and do this on behalf of the university? And they said yes, and I made it happen. So see, you gotta have more thinking like that. I didn't compete against anybody else. I just went for what I knew. I went after the people that supported Vann, Pettaway, and Alabama A&M basketball. I got into those corporate offices and I made it happen. I made the courtesy cars happen. I made the funds. The university did not have to spend one dime for my TV and radio show. because everything was raised through corporate dollar. All they had to do was allow me to come back and say, I'm going to give these people advertising spots. And that's all I did. And we made it work. But that was me looking out for my program. That was me looking out for the athletic department, because in me doing my own thing with basketball, I was able to bring along our women's basketball program. I was able to bring along when we added bowling. I helped the bowling program. I was able to bring along men's soccer because we were the only team in the SWAC with a men's soccer team. So they got support because of the things that I was able to help put in place. And I just think we got to have more of that.
And Carlos, I would say this. Look over the last 20 years, 25 years. Okay, look at the haves and have-nots. Okay, see who are still the haves and the have-nots. And then you get your answer moving forward. You know, those schools that have traditionally been the haves, Southern, Jackson State, FAMUs, and, those Hamptons, and, those folks such as that, they're still the haves at the end of the day. Those who have traditionally been on the short end of the stick, let's say like Valley, and there are a few others that are out there that have been shortchanged over the years. They're still being shortchanged, and for whatever reason, I don't see that changing over the course of time. There's going to have to be something cataclysmic that happens, pretty much for that to change. You're gonna have your haves, you're gonna have your have-nots. You would hope that at some point in time the gap would be narrowing, but if you look at over the past 20 plus years, that gap hasn't narrowed at all. If anything, it's gotten wider.
And not even just HBCUs, for us, the athletic society, you see in that even more so the haves and the have not, even in 2023. Now, comparable to your peers, that's another question. And who would be peers? I think everyone knows the answer of that in football on FCS, other conferences. But even within the conference, you kind of hope. You kind of hope. But you got to get past hope. You got to put something in place to help from a business standpoint. So it sounds like to me, just me, you got to have the right people in place. The mindset has to continue to change and evolve to help out, because the student athletes, they're kind of different in a way comparable to 20 years ago. Even when we look like Southern's, they got a locker room capital campaign. A lot of the student athletes that they're recruiting, even on the high school level, they have what they need, and they expect to see that when they move to the next level. So hopefully, I would love to not have this conversation again, but it is what it is. Reality is what it is. Coach Pettaway, closing comments for you, sir.
Well, it's been a wonderful day. I think we ended up the basketball season doing great, and I want to encourage you to continue doing the job that you're doing on getting the message out. And I look forward to being a part in the future.
Yeah, like next week. We didn't get into that NBA, but it'll be playoff times then. Willa, who is your NBA team? I know who your NFL team is. The Ravens.
I don't really have an M.
Has
I'm
anybody
not.
seen Lamar Jackson? Lamar Jackson. Where's Lamar Jackson?
I tell you, you'll see him in a Ravens uniform come September. I can tell you that. But
He holds out
I don't really.
cards in his
I'm
hand.
not. I'm not a big. I'm not a big NBA fan, Carlos. I'm a fan of college basketball because I'm more of a student at the end of the day. I like the strategy, the X's and O's, and all that sort of thing. And I don't get that from the pro game. 9 times out of 10, the better team wins and all that sort of thing. I can't really fathom the strategy NBA wise. So I don't have an NBA team. But it's good that we have these kind of conversations. Carlos, your show is an invaluable tool in terms of forwarding the message and things of that nature. Because the layperson, the average Joe Blow, they need to know the ins and outs of what it takes to run a department, to be in the coach's shoes, so to speak, and kind of understand a little better the things that they go through, the things that administrators go through, things of that nature. Plus you guys are good company, so that helps also. Appreciate it.
Oh, appreciate it. I know it's a tough job, and sometimes the conversation is not pleasant, but hey, you got to live and learn. Charles Edmond, closing
Yeah,
comments,
I mean
sir.
this is a great conversation to have, and you've heard from obviously Coach Pettaway's been in it, Wheeler Brown's been in it, and I'm working close to it. I talk to coaches all the time, and they talk about kind of the same types of things where they just want to focus on their sport and none of the other stuff because they get paid to win games, they get paid to make sure their kids go to class, APR. That's enough on their plate. Then you're trying to win games. So I think I understand where everybody is coming from, and we just hope and pray at some point in time it does get better. It's a long slog, it's a long process, but I'm an HBCU lifer, and so I'm always going to hold out for hope that things will at some point in time get better.
I I like these conversations, and then I don't like them. But again, um, you can learn, and I think the mindset is you got to always evolve. The way you thought 20 years ago, you got to be ready to change and adapt a new philosophy sometimes. Um, I love HBCUs. I graduated from one. I would love to see us do better. And you got to have hope and you got to have faith. But with faith, you got to have works. And so, HBCUs, once again, we won't be here 200 years. Some of us won't be here 50 years from now. But you want to make sure HBCUs are still relevant and financially in good shape, and it's long standing because it is institutions that have played an important part in the life of African Americans, but not only African Americans now. You have non-traditional students, older students that coming back, and so we got to make sure that our HBCUs are viable and relevant in the near future. Want to thank everyone who watched and listened. Want to thank Brian Fulford um, for producing today's show. And Brian, yes, I'm putting it out there early. FAMU in the East in football. I'm putting them out there. I'm putting them uh, on the pressure scale. Have a great holiday tomorrow. We appreciate everyone, and we'll make sure you join us next Saturday at 11 a.m. for another edition of the Coles Brown Show right here on the Black College Sports Network. Until next Saturday at that time, as always, peace and God bless. Boy, he just loves that chop. Coach Pettaway, he loves Alcorn with that
And nothing
chop.
you can do with it. And nothing you can do with it. He deserves that stuff.
I'm coming